What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So, if you're like me, I've been wanting to kind of find out who may be responsible, right? Which unit on our defense for us not looking as elite as we did in 2022. And for what it's worth, I will say I still think we have that version, that 2022 version of this defense present this year. A couple of us have chatted about it. You take a look at the second half performances for sure. First half, generally the first quarter's a different story, but not to make an excuse, it's kind of understandable, right? I've used the term uninspired play a number of times. And that mental drain does kind of wear on you from a performance standpoint, right? Aaron Rodgers goes down, you have that emotional drain. You still pull that out with Zach Wilson, but then you try to give it a game or two, you hear the outside world, but then you see multiple drives, basically the entirety of the game for 2 games back to back, where Zach Wilson is basically giving you nothing on the offensive side as a defense to help you out when it comes to rest, when it comes to you not having to play a picture perfect game, just to stay in the race. And so I could definitely see some slippage, right? And then you have the injuries. Tony Adams, I think, was a big one. So no excuses, but nonetheless, I do think those are some factors that 100% matter when it comes to things. Again, you take a look at the second half and you kind of, project that over 4 quarters. You're still talking about us about a, top 5 defense 100%. So let's dive into the linebacker core, though. As a whole, there's definitely some interesting things going on. We'll realistically only be breaking down CJ and Quincy, the way the snap counts are broken down, because there's a huge drop off once you get to Jamie and Sherwood. There's not a whole lot to necessarily take away from the film or the stats there. So some high level things to be aware of when it's come to this defense and this linebacker core. What explains, first off, Jamie and Sherwood's drop off in snaps compared to Quan playing the same position last year. We had Quan playing 50% by season's end. Obviously, we're only taking a look at a 4-game sample here, but you'd expect that it'd probably be a little bit more of a closer mark. We're playing more nickel packages, 77.5% this year compared to 65.1% last year, which basically means that we are playing three safety combo packages. We are opting to bring in Ashton Davis, and we're relegating Sherwood strictly to the base packages right now, which we're not in as often to get him on the field. So it's an interesting dynamic. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we quickly touch on Jamie, but that would explain his lack of snaps. Some of the high-level things, though, right now we're 17th in the NFL, allowing 4.2 yards per carry versus running backs, right? Not a terrible percentage considering run defense necessarily, from an objective viewpoint, taking a look at the skill set, how our defense is meant to operate. You'd expect us to maybe be, in the mid-20s, something like that. At worst, maybe late teens, high 20s, as we're kind of seeing here, in the above average to best category. So this is pretty acceptable. The big run plays, though, are an Achilles heel. We have let up at least 10 plays of 10-plus yards. You take a look at who we faced. Ezekiel Elliott, Isaiah Pacheco, Josh Allen is basically the running offense for the Buffalo Bills. But what team am I missing? Bills, Chiefs, Cowboys. Forget what the other team was. But, yeah, essentially between Pacheco and Elliott, that's been the majority of the big plays that we have let up, which is a little bit concerning. I do like Isaiah Pacheco. Ezekiel Elliott is an aging veteran, though, that a lot of people thought didn't have the burst and the same skill set to go out there and see success. He's seen quite a bit of it. So something for us to be aware of there. And then something that works against us is our third down predictability. Now, I'm all for a defense or an offense. If you want to be predictable, fine, by all means, but we should be able to execute at a high level. Basically one of those old school, mano y mano. I'm going to let you know what I can do. You have to go out there and stop me, try to mentality. So we know on third down, we love to man up. play man coverage with our cornerbacks, allow still a 4-man blitz, and then we do what we want to do with the linebackers, whether that's assisting, maybe throwing in an occasional blitz, picking up a check down, doing a spy, whatever. But we have seen huge run plays by quarterbacks. Josh Allen, Ezekiel didn't really do too much damage for us. Mac Jones isn't a threat, but you've seen it more pronounced with Patrick Mahomes, holding penalty issues aside and all that kind of stuff. And we'll kind of talk about why. So starting off with Quincy, right now he's kind of looked at as the superstar and the darling of this linebacker unit, right? I flashed some of the statistics and stuff where he's leading in the league. From a metric standpoint, he's literally at the top, meaning number one or near the top in some interesting categories: solo tackles, run stops, yards per reception, forced incompletion rate, passes defense, pass play stops. Now, generally half of those metrics are, involving passing statistics, right? His ability to go out there, force incompletions, him being able to get the ball away from the intended receiver, all that kind of stuff. And he's definitely taken a very, very big step in that direction. Generally in Robert Saleh's tenure, the linebackers have been a huge reason why a lot of broken, busted, or just not well executed plays have happened, right? Screen games killing us, as we've talked about quite a bit, and then just simple plays to running backs or slot wide receivers, even tight ends, coming out of the backfield. So kind of a good way to manipulate our defense. We have more so of the undersized linebackers and all that kind of stuff. But here's some of the things that, generally still might be concerns for us this season. And we'll see if that continues to be ironed out or a reason why, we haven't truly hit that elite category by season's end. But when it comes to Quincy, plays to the flats will still be a concern, right? Huge boomer bust guy. Love the plays where you see everything sync up and he's knocking a dude's helmet off. We get the uppercut. Awesome to see that. We're seeing it more often. We're seeing it more consistently. And not to mention, we're not seeing the dumb penalties or anything like that that basically negates whatever big play he just made. So that's huge. But plays to the flats are concerning because there's a reason why Robert Saleh loves the sideline ability. The linebackers, when there is a play that's coming out to the flats, they're going to be responsible for trying to get there, obviously get the stop, but it's more of a gang or group tackle mentality, right? But when that doesn't necessarily occur, if we're in man coverage, other different scenarios, and Quincy's generally going to be the guy that needs to get the stop. If he continues to have that hit or miss, capability there, you're talking about 15 to maybe 20 yards of open field potentially that a guy can make. And we know as a whole the team generally hasn't been great in open field tackling from the games that I've been able to see so far. So something we want to be aware of. He also is interesting because he struggles to beat blocks. If he's not navigating or kind of knifing through traffic to get to the action, and it's weird how it happens, right? When he's able to go out there and build up some speed and attack and and engage in a blocker, he does just that. It's not him finessing or trying to use his athleticism to get around his guy. His speed and the power, and he kind of gets stonewalled. Whereas if a play, he's closer to the line of scrimmage, plays are happening quick. He's using his power right there. He's getting off of his man pretty quick, and then he's going out there and making a play. So you'd expect maybe the opposite, especially with him being a little bit more undersized, but obviously having the speed. You'd expect for it to be reversed. So hopefully he finds a way to get the most out of being able to have that speed advantage when he is trying to be engaged by a defender. And then generally the lack of awareness in man coverage and quarterback runs. So kind of relating this back to that Chiefs game, again, regardless of the holds, Patrick Mahomes had somewhere between like 4 and maybe 7 seconds to throw that ball before he opted to run. Then he had, 22 or 26 yards to run or something to get a first down. He gets it with ease. I mean, you don't even see really another defender in frame until he's already at the first down marker. And a lot of this is because Quincy Williams doesn't really get his head turned around to take a look at what's happening in front of him. He's pretty focused on his coverage assignments, which he's done very well in that aspect. But having a guy scamper for a fifth of the field before you even recognize he's coming towards you is something that we can't have happen whatsoever, especially with a guy like Patrick Mahomes. He's not a Josh Allen that's big for his size, a little bit quicker than expected. It's not quite a Tom Brady, kind of falls somewhere in the middle, maybe slightly above average. But 20-something plus yards a few times is crazy to go out there and allow, especially given the traits that Quincy brings to the table. So when it comes to CJ, our captain of the defense, so he's near or at the top in categories like solo tackles, missed tackle rate, pass to defense, target passer rating. So when you look at this realistically, his coverage stats, he's benefiting from some early turnovers. We'll dive into that in a little bit. But the other stats, the tackles, the missed tackle rate being pretty low, that's been a staple and consistent part of CJ Mosley's game this entire time, right? A lot of his game you can boil down, or his Jets tenure, to veteran that's lost the step, but the mental part is elite. He knows how to still go out there and impact the game, and that's what CJ Mosley is. He's definitely an impact player, but you're not going to get a lot of explosive plays out of a guy like CJ. It's definitely more, think like Ed Reed in his twilight years, where the mental ability to go out there and make something happen is there, but the physical traits won't necessarily allow him to quite a bit. But the turnovers are where you get excited and you get very frustrated with CJ. He does a great job, again, being able to prepare for these games and use his smarts to outwit an offense. He does a great job getting in passing lanes, being able to disrupt, where the ball should be going. He literally gets his hands on so many interceptions, and the man has butterfingers, bricks for hands, noodle fingers. Is absolutely ridiculous that balls are hitting this man in both palms of his hands, and we're not seeing him bring down more of these turnover plays. So you get frustrated, but then you do see him go out there and maybe get a one-hander he tips to himself, or something where he almost runs the route for the receiver and comes away with a body catch. So he's kind of making up for it, but it just makes you think how much better he would look with another 2 to 3 interceptions on his resume already. But he's a guy that's interesting to me because, at this point, where the Jets never got the Baltimore Ravens version of CJ, right? We got the guy that came in, looked elite, but then he suffered 2 very serious soft tissue injuries in both of his opening seasons with us, and that really sapped away a lot of the physical traits that we should have seen on display. Again, as I mentioned, not that any of this has really impacted his game specifically, but he probably still would have been probably the top 2 or 3 linebackers in the league in his early years with the Jets if that never ultimately ended up happening. It's also ironic he generally has his best games against the Bills, but nonetheless, what I've seen so far and kind of what's been a consistent trend for him is slow reactive feet. And maybe it's not necessarily a reactive thing, but kind of a mentality. If he's proactive in plays, and again, he's missing that step, a lot of these younger, running backs and stuff that he's facing, one false step, one move, one unfortunate few missed tackle from him, and it's going to be off to the races just the way the defense is set, right? Defensive lines attacking the quarterbacks. Linebackers should be there as that main level of defense in a run game. But if they get washed out easily, being lighter, or if they make a miscue, a false step, just a slight bit slow to react, it could be off to the races. So he seems comfortable being more of a kind of sitting on his heels, and he does a great job of minimizing a play that's in front of him if the action gets to him. But I would love to see somebody that can be a bit more proactive there. But jumping into Jamian, it will be an interesting conversation. I think right now the obvious answer is re-signing Quan Alexander would have helped us quite a bit. Definitely think he wouldn't be at 20% of the snaps for the defense right now, but it's not been a whole lot to go off of. Right now you have a lot of conjecture. I would say the coaching staff, much like you've seen with other young guys, just doesn't trust in his ability to go out there and be effective in the run game right now, even though we've seen it in the preseason. But when you look at, Jamian, realistically, he's still a rookie. He's had a couple years to learn the mental part. A lot of people speak up that his captain-like traits. He's learned all of the positions in the linebacker unit. But he's only had like 4 or 5, maybe 6 games of experience, and he's left almost all, if not all, of them either early or late due to an injury. And so you're still talking about him essentially being a rookie when it comes to the actual game experience and being able to hold up out there in real time. So I could see him kind of still being slow paced along. Again, long season. We'll see if that gets bumped up quite a bit. And then you have Chaz. Not a whole lot of anything to talk about. 4 snaps on the season, but he is an interesting wild card with some of the raving comments we heard from Robert Saleh. Essentially believing he has all pro capabilities, future captain of the team. There was a lot of excitement in Robert Saleh's tone when it came to Chaz. I'm a guy that's definitely loving his game. Love what I saw during preseason. So hoping he gets more opportunities. It would be great by season's end to see Jamian closer to that 50% mark, and then Chaz Surratt maybe closer to that 20% mark. But it does speak volumes that he was able to hold off our rookie that we just picked up, Zaire Barnes. And he's been able to see the 53-man roster over him. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. What have you been seeing so far? Would you consider the linebacker unit the real liability of this defense so far? Or have they maybe surprised you or playing about as expected? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.